Hi everyone, I am the undecided voter, and today I wanted to say I have been silent about politics in terms of my videos for a very long time, and today I just really felt like we need to speak out, we need to say something, and I've been very active on Twitter. You can find me on author Tony Peters, and just want to kind of break down a lot of what we've seen with the parties. And to be fair, again, I did not vote conservative last election. I did not vote liberal, NDP. I did not vote any of your mainstream or traditional parties. I think that they're all liars. I don't trust any of them right now, and I haven't for a while here. And I'll kind of break down what we've seen from these parties, though, in the last couple election cycles. And to be fair, most of this is going to be liberal stuff because, frankly, that's who's been in power. So that's who we have to hold to account for a lot of what we have seen. So first, I am going to leave the liberals to last because you are going to want to hear what I have to say about the liberals. Let's start with the NDP. First of all, Singh is spineless. He has abandoned all of his voters to do whatever he needs to pander to Trudeau and work with Trudeau in as much as he can. Now, there's certain things that he has pushed back on, and I'll give him credit for that. Although some of the things he's pushed back on really have been of very little importance. But yeah, he's colluded with the liberals all the way. He's been a complete hypocrite in so many things, and he has completely, like I said, abandoned those who voted NDP to the point where a lot of his supporter base is calling him out for his crap, which is, I think, why we're starting to see a little bit of pushback now. He knows an election cycle is coming and is in the works. He has supported the economic destruction of this country and pushed against everything that is natural resource related because of some, again, collusion with the liberals in this, and not really caring at all about the economy, not understanding how economics works. And he supported the actions of PSAC and their blockading of ports and actions that the trucker convoy got condemned for and had the Emergency Measures Act brought against them. Again, something that he supported. And yet he did condemn the trucker convoy and going against them, which is complete hypocrisy and virtue signaling. You're just pandering and virtue signaling left, right, and center. No one actually knows what you actually believe, because that's what Singh has done. He's just virtue signaled. So what he actually believes, who knows? Green Party, to be fair, they haven't really had any power, so I don't have a whole lot to say on them. Climate hypocrisy. Look at Elizabeth May, for example, and her Viper. That's one thing, but just a complete lack of understanding about how the economy works and what is actually going to drive jobs in this country and help push this country forward economically and get us out of the hole that the liberals have dug for us. They do more pandering, and they also do a lot of virtue signaling. They virtue signal to anybody who might possibly get them a vote, which is usually not done in a very well orchestrated manner. It's usually very obvious, and as a result, it doesn't get them votes. Conservatives, and again, I won't speak on the PPC because they haven't really been in power. They haven't really had any seats, so I can't really speak to the PPC and what they stand for. I don't know. Conservatives, let's go right back to Harper. The economic deal he made with China, which drove jobs away from Canadians and helped give China more control in our country. I completely do not trust his motives in that. I think he was completely wrong. And I've been saying for a long time, we need to get away from China, not moving towards China. And then we saw spending scandals. We seem to see this with every single government, so it's not really a huge surprise. They had fewer than what I've seen out of most Liberal cabinets. So, yeah, there was some scandals, though. They also do pandering and virtue signaling. It seems to be something that members of Parliament and politicians, it's so cringe. They just seem to be so good at this virtue signaling, and it's like, give it a rest. Tell us what you actually think and what you actually believe, what you actually stand for. What are you actually going to do for us Canadians? Are you going to stand up for us Canadians? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to see from our Conservatives. Are you actually going to stand up for us? And are you actually going to back your words? We saw that they did not back their words and that they were spineless under the rule of O'Toole, who pushed us further and further towards liberalism and made it so the Conservative Party was not the Conservative Party that it used to be. He completely destroyed it, and now Pierre Poilievre is trying to rebuild that look. But do I completely trust him? No. I'll believe him when I actually see his words put into action. Only way we're going to see that is if he gets elected. Do they have my vote this next election? I have no idea. I definitely am not voting NDP, and I'm definitely not voting Liberal. And Green Party, give me a break. Balanced budgets, that we saw with them, that I liked. We did see balanced budgets, and we saw allocation of funds for our veterans and for the military, something we are not seeing under this government. And one thing I really don't like is they keep flip-flopping on abortion. One day they're for it, the next day they're against it. Pick a side. Let us know what you actually feel about it and stick with that instead of going back and forth. To me, I don't know why this gets brought up every single election cycle when none of the parties actually do anything about it. So quit bringing it up if you don't plan to do anything about it. Another good thing, Conservatives were against COVID mandates, and they supported our truckers. That was huge. That I really did appreciate. I really did like to see that support, although I would have liked to see a little bit more support and a little bit more action put behind their words. But again, they're not in power, so it is understandable that we don't see quite as much because they don't have the control. The Liberals and the NDP have the control through their let's keep it family friendly, their relationship together. And booming economy and natural resources. That's what we saw underneath Conservatives as well. Our natural resources were put to use and were actually used and to further get jobs and employment for our Canadians and see that unemployment rate drop, whereas Liberals, we've seen a huge rise in the unemployment. And that does bring us to the Liberals, where we have seen a lot of climate change hypocrisy, flying private jets every single place you go, taking 2 to the coronation because Sophie doesn't want to be in the same plane with you, is just pathetic. You're preaching climate change, and yet you are the worst for this. And that is what we typically see with people who are preaching about climate change, is there's a lot of hypocrisy among most of these politicians who really push for climate change. They own huge mansions, they have a beachfront property, they fly private jets everywhere, they drive more than anybody else, and it's complete hypocrisy. And we saw, again, virtue signaling, always with the Liberals, virtue signaling. We saw the destruction of the West, which drove more division between the West and the East than what we have seen in decades. It has been atrocious. And we saw the destruction of our natural resource areas, just complete destruction of them, which has led to loss in jobs, loss in economy, and just complete destruction. And then we have the crappy carbon tax that no one wants to pay, and that he keeps raising time and time again and wants to again raise it. and it is absolutely atrocious. It is driving jobs away. It is killing farmers and truckers, driving prices of everything up. So we do not want the carbon tax. If the Conservatives get in power, they need to scrap that thing ASAP. They also use vaccine mandates and mask mandates to further divide Canadians and villainize people who didn't necessarily want to get vaccinated. He made that clear that they were villains, and now he's saying he didn't force somebody to do anything, but now it's going to be on their next election campaign agenda is pushing that again. Give me a break. The WHO has said it's over. Not that I care what they have to say. Vaccines were a pile of crap anyway, and they have done more harm to Canadians and people around the world than any good that they possibly did. We've seen huge inflation, and that is just because he just wants to keep printing money, printing money. Printing money does not solve problems. You actually have to balance a budget. That is something he has failed to do time and time again, is balance a budget. He thinks budgets balance themselves. Well, they do not balance themselves. You actually have to balance the budget and make decisions as to where you make cuts and where you put funds to make it so the budget is balanced. Again, COVID was hard for that, but you had a chance before COVID and you've had a chance after COVID, and you've not proven that you can balance a budget. In fact, you just keep spending. And then there was the Antifa and BLM riots, and the fact that you let them happen and you did nothing. You virtue signaled to them and just caved. And then we have the blackface scandal, which was frankly hilarious. I mean, just shows that this man's mind is not right and that he really is racist. And that's why he sees racism everywhere, is because he is racist. And then we saw the LNC-Lavalin scandal, a huge scandal that was terrible for Canadians and made us look really bad on the political stage around the world. And then there's the WE scandal, yet another scandal. And that was one that involved his family and charities, and using them to basically support his family's agendas. And then we see the embarrassment globally time and time again. I could bring up so many things of when he's embarrassed us globally, and it is ridiculous, including the signing of congratulations for a country that did not exist, and this cult leader who was actually a con artist who had been booted out of India. Check that one out. Yeah, that one was embarrassing, and he fell for it hook, line, and sinker, as did many politicians. And yeah, that was embarrassing for everybody involved. And then we have more spending scandals. We have a vacation scandal. We have again, the COVID thing was a complete power grab. And then he improperly handled the trucker convoy, villainizing them instead of going out and actually having a conversation and trying to talk to them. And he brought out the Emergency Measures Act and abused that, and then used the police force as a weapon against Canadian citizens. And that is something you only see in China. But we've seen that since in Australia and the US and many of these areas. And it's time to start pushing back against this. It's time to start fighting back and declaring that we will not put up with this garbage any longer. And we saw the hypocrisy of that when he would not even think about going after PSAC for doing the same things the trucker convoy did. And then we saw we've seen many times the WEF, World Economic Forum, their taglines pushed time and time again, like Great Reset, and their agendas just keep getting pushed. And same with Soros's agendas. We've seen them getting pushed time and time again, that George and Alexander Soros are really trying to push and control. And then we've seen more virtue signaling. Yay, surprise. And more scandals. Yay, more surprise. And then we've seen Chinese election interference. Oh, yeah, shocker there. Really, we all didn't know that was coming. And Chinese security failures. You weren't going to remove the diplomats despite them threatening MPs' lives, and you wanted to keep that silent, and you kept it silent for 2 years. Give me a break. You should be in jail, and these people should have been ejected immediately as soon as they knew 2 years ago. And any MP right now should all be investigated, all of them, in terms of where their spending is coming from and what kind of support are they getting, whether it's Russia, China, I don't care what party you're from even. They all need to get their money and their funding investigated. Big undertaking, I know, but it's something that needs to be done. And then we've seen the liberal gun grab where they just keep trying to make more and more firearms illegal because they want to completely get rid of our firearms. And frankly, I think that we would have a much safer country if more people actually had the right to protect themselves instead of the right to flee. We've seen attacks on religious groups time and time again. COVID was big for this, but we've seen a lack of action despite churches being burned down, and lack of anything in terms of if it's faith, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist. It doesn't matter. Trudeau does not respect any of that. The Liberal Party doesn't care about any of that. They do not want you to have religious freedom. They want you to follow the one world government, which is WEF. And that's what they want from you. So they do not want religion, because religion and faith just completely pushes back against that. And then we've seen the passport changes, which are ridiculous and an insult to all Canadians, especially to Terry Fox and to our veterans. Just a complete insult to them, the changes that were made in the passport. And the changes to the crown, I mean, snowflakes. I mean, we all knew he was a snowflake, but you put it on the crown? Really? Again, embarrassing on the public global platform. Just completely embarrassing. And again, bringing up the abortion thing in another cycle. You know, an election's coming up when they start bringing out abortion stuff, and it's pathetic. And then we see, again, more scandals popping up with the Trudeau Foundation. Shocker. And more trip stuff. He doesn't seem to learn with the trips. Just keeps doing them. We've seen ethics people who just step down because they've approved these things. And his saying he is a feminist, but yet he doesn't respect the female members of his caucus and drives them out and minimizes their voices. He calls everyone else misogynist because that's what he is. And so that's what he sees. That's what he projects. Then we've seen the complete abandonment of our veterans and of our military. He's let it get into an embarrassing state, completely embarrassing. Our veterans deserve support. They deserve respect. And that is not what they see with this government. And then we've seen the media control push. I mean, we always knew that the media is NDP and Liberal. That is what they are. We need to defund any media. We do not need to be paying as taxpayers into any media. And if that means the CBC and CTV have to make cutbacks, so be it. I don't care. They don't need our funding. And Bill C-11, crap. You do not get to control what we say, what we think. This is not China. You want it to be communist China. This is not China. So back off on that stuff. And the digital currency, that is not safe. That is so dangerous. It is putting way too much control in the hands of the government that we see them already abusing with the trucker convoy and freezing bank accounts. Digital currency, that is going to be so much easier to do, and it is just going to make us, again, more like China. And that is what we want. What we see him wanting is China, China, China. Anything China wants, China gets. That's what we see. That's why he was afraid to expel the diplomats, is because he is backed by China. He's allowed the Chinese interference in every level of our government. Same with WEF and Soros. Get the heck out of our government. Take back control. Give it back to the voters. And you need to be contacting your MPs, reaching out and being like, what do you actually stand for? Are you actually voting for us? Are you actually doing what we want you to do? I don't care what party you're with. You vote the way your constituents want you to vote, not just the way that your party leader tells you to vote. You don't like that, then you should not be in Parliament. The power is in the hands of Canadians. We need to fight to get that back, and we need to fight for our rights, fight for our freedoms, fight for our religious beliefs, and fight to get foreign interference out of our government and put the power back in the hands of us Canadians.